Hello there and welcome to another video on investing in the stock market. This is a video series where I explain why I own the stocks I already own. So I'm not buying this stock tomorrow, I already own it. So Apple is the world's most valuable company in market cap, but it might not be the most interesting and exciting stock. I don't get a lot of questions about Apple. I personally really like it as a play though. Some people tend to think that the best days are behind Apple, but I think Apple is still doing great, and here's why. So we're going to start off with the obvious thing, the brand itself. It's the most valuable and powerful brand in the world, running since 2012, and the brand is estimated at $170 billion. That's not a very important number. The important thing about a brand is it helps you sell products. So anything they slap the Apple brand on, they can sell it. And one way more important thing is the margins. So the margins is how much money you make on a product after all the costs are accounted for. So Apple has the highest margins in hardware, and they have high volume. So people tend to make the analogy of having the margins of a luxury brand like Ferrari, for example, and having the volume of Volkswagen, a massive volume company. They have 38% gross margin, 27% operating margin, and the most important one, 21% profit margin. So these are higher than any of the other electronics companies. And why can they have such high margins? Because of the brand and the way they run their business. They're so efficient and they're executing and they have a good supply chain. It's the world's cash richest company. They have about $230 billion they can spend on anything they like. I think Microsoft comes in at a second. So Apple has more money than they know what to do with. And it's almost difficult to spend that much money. But what this means for investors is they can do share buybacks, increase dividend, and they can acquire new companies, and they can put more money into research and development. But Apple is already covering their costs. So how are they going to spend 230 billions? I have no idea. For me, this is like just a vault. Like, it makes the stock a lot safer because Apple can basically take anything, any hit, any recession, any depression. Apple can take it because they have so much money. So Apple are not going to run out of money, but the Apple customers can run out of money though. Over 1 billion active devices, so those are phones, tablets, watches, iPods, etc. And these are all mini stores or revenue sources for Apple. Because when you buy a phone or a tablet or a watch, on that you're going to buy apps, video games, music, and you're going to buy all sorts of other devices you need, like connections and wires and headsets and etc. So this is the most important thing about Apple, and it's the biggest leverage because they have over 1 billion active customers, monthly customers. So when they roll out something, they can roll out to all of those billion people. And what they do roll out are services. So services is anything non-hardware related. So that's cloud storage, Apple Music, Apple Pay, the App Store, etc., which is growing very fast. And this is one of the big things about Apple as an investment, because some people think that Apple is being valued as a hardware company, so way lower than a tech company. Tech company has way higher margins than all other companies, but if Apple can succeed in making more money from revenues, it's way more scalable, right? There is a limited amount of stuff you can sell, like phones and tablets. But in terms of things you can sell on that phone or on that tablet is almost unlimited. And you have way higher margins, right? You almost have 100% margins on Apple Music, Apple Pay, and the App Store, right? While it costs a lot of money to make phones and tablets, but it costs no money selling apps. So if they keep growing this, investors will be forced to value Apple as a tech company rather than a boring hardware company, which means the stock is going to go way up. Right now, it's such a cheap company. People can't believe the PE ratio. It's not more than 20, 25 or something, while other tech companies are up at 50, 40, 60, 40, sorry. So yeah, that's, you know, one of the things where Apple can really shine as an investment. They have 35 to 40 billion dollars in services revenue, growing at 34% year over year. And yes, Steve Jobs is gone, and we all wish he'd stay around for longer, but Steve Jobs did his job. He created the company, he was the visionary, and he really staked out a course for Apple. But Tim Cook was always the mad scientist behind it all. He was the guy that made everything, the wheels churn. He was the money guy. He made the bucks. He created the supply chain. He executed. He pushed out the iPhones, which Steve Jobs sort of like came out of Steve Jobs' vision. Tim Cook was the guy selling it. He was the margins guy. He was the number cruncher. He was the most valuable person after Steve Jobs. And Apple is going from a visionary growth stock to a sort of operating and executing giant. And for that, I think Tim Cook is perfect. And he's the biggest reason why Apple has the best margins in the world and is the richest company in the world. He made it the most profitable company in history. And with all of this cash, they can acquire any small, medium-sized company, even big companies like Netflix. I would love to see them do that. They can buy any important technology company. They can buy competition. They can do vertical integration in the supply chain. They can buy up all the different levels in the supply chain, take anything in-house, which gives them even more leverage and can make them have higher margins. They have maybe the strongest product portfolio with iPhone, iPad, iMac, MacBook, Apple Watch, the iPod, Beats by Dre, the App Store, Apple Music. They have an incredible amount of product. They're coming out with the HomePod, and I don't doubt that at some point they're going to come out with, you know, now they have like glasses or smart tables or walls or drones or something, right? So every new product category like smart watches and smart glasses, Apple can just take its time, use all of that money, do research, let all the small players sort of duke it out, and then they can come in and just take over the market. That's what they did with the smartphone. That's what they did with Apple Watch. It was a bunch of, you know, Fitbit and all these small competitors trying to compete for the smartwatch market, and then Apple just, here we are, and just now it's only Apple Watch. So that's sort of how Apple does it, and they usually end up with the best product in category. They have the best phone, well, at least as good as all the rest, best pad, the best smartwatch, the best music player. So that's just sort of how Apple rolls. And it might be one of the safest stocks in the world. It is controversial, so there's a lot of news about Apple, and a lot of people are trying to get at Apple. So the stock does fluctuate a lot because of the high expectations and all the drama around Apple, but it's still a very, very safe stock. And it does pay a 1.6% dividend, so that makes it even safer. They have a very boring CEO, not a lot of ups and downs. He's just really good at executing. And since they're so efficient, they have so much money in the bank, and they have such a large and loyal fan base and customer base, Apple isn't really going anywhere, and they just make money even if they're not even trying. So it's a very safe stock, and they can increase that dividend with all the money they can bring back after the tax bill. Sorry if I'm speaking really fast, by the way. Still a lot of room to grow in Asia, which is the largest market in the world, not by how much money they have, but how many people there are. There's 1.3 billion people in China, almost 1.4. There's 1.3 billion in India. There's hundreds of millions in Bangladesh, Indonesia, Philippines. These are all very much emerging markets where Apple has very low penetration, very low market. So if they can execute just to a decent degree in India and China, that's just massive potential, which in my opinion is not priced into the stock. So Apple is a great investment. Have a look. Let me know what you think about it. I know there's a lot of opinions about Apple, although I not get a lot of comments about it. And good luck in the stock market.